that Arizona, there was a lot of talk about, well, is it Arizona a Cinderella or not? They were a 12 seed, but they're Arizona, so can they really be a Cinderella? Like, listen, yes. Yes, they are a true Cinderella. They are the Cinderella that should be a Cinderella. You can't give me these little schools that nobody's ever heard of and call them a Cinderella. They have no shot of beating anyone. Arizona, though, on the other hand, is a big-name school that plays big competition all season long, so you know that there's a chance they can knock off anyone in the tournament. That's the difference, and that's a real Cinderella, a team that isn't as good, obviously, as the top teams, but they can still hang and might actually pull something off. Now, granted, they had a pretty easy route to get to the Sweet 16, right? Their first game was against Utah, maybe the weakest 5 seed outside of Illinois. Second game, they lucked out and got Cleveland State, who somehow, I don't even know what that, and that made me look stupid because I was talking, Cleveland State was my main example of teams that shouldn't get automatic bids into the tournament, and naturally they win their first round game. So, but still, they got knocked off in the second round, just like they should have, and ultimately I think I'm still right about that. I still think that the automatic bids are goofy, and that the bigger name schools should get in, and I think Arizona proved my point. Let's see, I'm about 10 minutes away from switching over to Blog Talk. Colin Cowherd, and I talk about him a lot because, for one, I have a giant man crush, and two, he talks about interesting things, and they get me thinking, and I'm obviously too nervous and terrified and love to call in the show and actually talk to Colin, so I just respond to things he says on my website. And he was talking about college football versus college basketball, and how everyone says they want a playoff for college football because look at the basketball tournament and how big it is. But he says, well, the ratings for college basketball all through the season are terrible. The regular season nobody watches because it doesn't mean anything. It says that nobody even starts watching until the tournament. And he's absolutely right. That part is absolutely right. But then he says, and so to me that's why college football is set up perfect, because the regular season is relevant. It means something, right? You have to win your regular season games to be alive at the end. So he says the bowl system is fine, though. It's set up fine. That way, the regular season actually means something. And I thought about that a little bit because it made sense at first, but then the more I thought about it, the more I thought, okay, well, how about this? How about if your team, say you're an Ohio State fan, a team that if they go all season undefeated or only losing one game, they're all but guaranteed a spot in the national title game. Let's say you're an Ohio State fan and you lose your second game of the season. That's one down. All right, and then let's say you lose your fourth game. Maybe you have a couple tough games, like a tough stretch, a road stretch, and you drop a couple games early. Your season's over. So not only does that make the rest of your regular season irrelevant, but then also any postseason, anything will be irrelevant, and nobody will care after week 4. You have to think about that. Yes, the regular season in college football means something, but not if you lose early. Then it's over. Then it's all over. Then the whole rest of the season is a wash. I think you have to have a playoff in college football, and I think you have to have about 6 or 8 teams, and you still have the relevancy to the regular season because, if you lose more than 2 games, you're probably not going to make it into that top 8, right? So you still have that going, but you can still lose a couple games and be able to play. So that was kind of my thoughts on that. There needs to be a mix because I agree. I think that the regular season for NCAA basketball, Girl Gone Geek 19 in the chat room, hey, good to see you, says, it figures the topic I have no interest in is the one with the live video. I'm sorry, what would you like to talk about, Girl Gone Geek? You tell me. I was getting ready to talk about John Calipari now. I already talked about Jay Cutler, Ryan Moats. You didn't interrupt my show. It's cool. This is part of my show. I talk to the chat room. We converse back and forth. You didn't interrupt. This is all right with me. I don't mind. That's what I said. If there's something else you'd like to hear, we can talk. It's cool. Yeah, it doesn't bother me.